Israel calls up 60,000 reservists ahead of Gaza City offensive. A deadly bus crash triggers massive fire in Afghanistan. Hello, good afternoon and Salam Malaysia, Madani. Thanks for joining us. I'm Shuhaida Arifin and you're watching World Today. Israel forces intensify their assault on Gaza City as they prepare to seize the city and forcibly displaced nearly 1 million people, with residential neighborhoods coming under some of the fiercest Israeli attacks on the Gaza Strip in recent weeks. According to Enclave's Health Ministry, at least 81 Palestinians, including 30 aid seekers, have been killed in Israeli attacks across Gaza since dawn on Wednesday, and 3 more people have starved to death in the Strip. Relatives of Israeli captives have condemned the Israeli Defense Ministry's approval of a plan to seize Gaza City and accused the government of ignoring a ceasefire proposal approved by Hamas, saying it was a stab in the heart of the families and the public in Israel. Israel's war on Gaza has killed at least 62,122 people and wounded nearly 157,000. And at least 18,885 children are among the Palestinians killed by Israel since the start of its genocidal war in Gaza nearly 2 years ago. The staggering grim toll comes as the United Nations Agency for Palestinian Refugees, UNRWA, said that no place is safe for children in the enclave, where Israeli-induced starvation is rife due to Israel's blockading of desperately needed aid and medical supplies. Israel's defense minister on Wednesday approved a military plan for the conquest of Gaza City, authorizing the call-up of about 60,000 reservists, piling pressure on Hamas as mediators push for a ceasefire. The freedom fighter group said that it showed Israel's blatant disregard for effort to broker a halt in fighting and a hostage release deal in the nearly 2-year conflict. And they also criticized Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's lack of response to the proposal, accusing him of being the real obstacle to any agreement and of not caring about the lives of Israeli hostages. Defense Minister Israel Katz's order to send more troops into Gaza City came as an Israeli official said the government stood firm on its call for the release of all hostages in any agreement. The framework that Hamas had approved proposes an initial 60-day truce, a staggered hostage release, the freeing of some Palestinian prisoners, and provisions allowing for the entry of aid into Gaza. Israel's Security Cabinet, chaired by Netanyahu, approved the plan to conquer Gaza City earlier this month, sparking fears of worsening the already catastrophic humanitarian crisis in Gaza. According to Israeli media reports, Netanyahu has not yet called the Security Cabinet meeting to discuss any response to the latest truce proposal. Amnesty International accused U.S. authorities of using artificial intelligence AI tools from Planter and Babel Street to monitor immigrants and target non-citizens at demonstrations supporting Palestinians. A review of documents, including Department of Homeland Security public records, showed that software provided by the AI firms enables mass surveillance and assessment of people, often to target those not from the United States. The US government is deploying invasive AI-powered technologies within a context of a mass deportation agenda and crackdown on pro-Palestine expression, leading to a host of human rights violations. This has led to a pattern of unlawful detentions and mass deportations, creating a climate of fear and exacerbating the chilling effect for migrant communities and for international students across schools and campuses. Amnesty research determined the United States is using the AI tools to track migrants, refugees, and asylum seekers as part of a catch and revoke initiative. The Thai army on Wednesday invited the press corps and ASEAN military attaché to observe an area in eastern Surin province, which they said had been affected by a deadly clash between Thailand and Cambodia in July. And the Thai military showed tour attendees unexploded ordnance UXO, which they said the army had collected since the latest conflict in July. The Thai army accuses Cambodia of using both old and new mines in Thai territory, a charge which a spokesperson for the Cambodian Defense Ministry has denied.
วันนี้ก็มีเจ้าหน้าที่อีกชุดหนึ่งนะครับที่เข้ามาเคลียร์พื้นที่ให้ทางคณะทูตกับทางสื่อต่างๆเข้ามาในพื้นที่เพื่อความปลอดภัยนะครับก็ได้ไปเจออีกทุ่นหนึ่งนะครับที่วางอยู่ตรงนู้นนะครับในการเคลียร์พื้นที่วันนี้ครับ
Surrounded by cordon tapes, officials pointed to a spot where they said a Thai soldier had stepped on a landmine after a patrol on 12 August. Thai Army spokesman Major General Winthai Suvari said the incident was clear evidence that Cambodia had violated the ceasefire. Cambodia rejected the Thai charges, with the Defense Ministry spokesperson writing on social media that they have never used, produced or deployed new landmines under any circumstances. The Thai army said that another mine had been found during a sweep of the area ahead of the delegation's arrival and claimed they have destroyed a Cambodian BM-21 rocket that had been discovered. At least 14 people, including a family with 3 children, were wounded in an overnight Russian attack on Ukraine's northern region of Sumy on Wednesday. The strike took place at a time of an intense effort by US President Donald Trump to bring an end to the Russian war in Ukraine. Russia launched 15 drones in an assault on the Oktrika area in the early hours of Wednesday. Prime Minister Yulia Serindenko on X said the children injured in the attack, which struck a residential neighborhood in the town, were aged 5 months, 4 years and 6 years. Russia has repeatedly said it does not attack civilians or civilian infrastructure. Trump brought Zelensky and European leaders to the White House on Monday, 3 days after his landmark encounter with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Alaska. Trump, long a fierce critic of billions of dollars in U.S. support in Ukraine, ruled out sending U.S. troops, but suggested the country might provide air support. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un heaped praise on his nation's troops deployed to help Russia in its war against Ukraine during a meeting with commanders. The official Korean Central News Agency reported Kim conveyed warm encouragement to the officers and the soldiers serving in Russia's Kursk region, referencing an area where Pyongyang has sent more than 10,000 fighters. Kim's remarks come as US President Donald Trump ramps up so far fruitless attempts to end the Russia-Ukraine war, having held high-profile talks with the leaders of both countries in recent days. But Russian President Vladimir Putin, who last week hailed the North Korean troops as heroic, is up to now avoiding meeting his Ukrainian counterpart Volodymyr Zelensky for peace talks. Russia and North Korea have been forging increasingly close ties, including signing a mutual defense pact last year when Putin visited the reclusive state. In April, North Korea confirmed for the first time that it had deployed a contingent of its soldiers to the front line in Ukraine alongside Russian troops. Indonesia and Germany are looking into strengthening trade and investment cooperation ahead of the Indonesia-EU SIPA agreement in 2026. The matter was confirmed by Indonesian Foreign Minister Sugiono Said in Jakarta on Wednesday, August 20th, after a meeting with his German counterpart Johann van der Poel. On his part, Van der Poel reiterated Germany's commitment, along with Japan, in supporting Indonesia's implementation of the Just Energy Transition Program, JETP, an initiative in which Berlin and Tokyo, along with other wealthy nations, are investors.
Für deutsche und indonesische Unternehmen bietet es große Chancen der Zusammenarbeit, zum Beispiel bei erneuerbaren Energien. Schon jetzt kooperieren Deutschland und Indonesien bei der Energiewende. Wir unterstützen Indonesien unter anderem zusammen mit Japan, Sie haben das erwähnt, im Just Energy Transition Partnership Programm JETP bei der beschleunigten und sozial gerechten Energiewende. Deutschland trägt dazu allein 1,6 Milliarden Euro bei.
Van der Poel's visit to Jakarta came after a trip to Japan earlier this week, where he met with Japanese Foreign Minister Takeshi Iwaya and called for more pressure on Russia to push Moscow towards concessions for a just and lasting peace regarding its war in Ukraine. Sony on Wednesday said it is bumping up the price of PlayStation 5 video game consoles by $50 in the United States due to a challenging economic environment. Tariffs imposed by US President Donald Trump hiked the cost of goods brought into the country, leaving companies like Japan's Sony to decide whether to pass that on to consumers. Sony Interactive Entertainment said, similar to many global businesses, they continue to navigate a challenging economic environment. After initially being threatened with a 25% hike, Japan negotiated a 15% tariff with the Trump administration. The new price for PS5 will be $550 with a digital edition priced at $500 and a Pro version for $750. In May, Sony warned it was considering tweaking prices in the US, estimating that tariffs could wind up costing the company about $680 million in the fiscal year. Air Canada is set to resume its flight services after a nearly 4-day strike by its unionized flight attendants left more than 500,000 passengers stranded. A Toronto resident expressed the frustration that Air Canada is really being tested from both sides, the customers and the workers as well. The airline announced that they will start operations immediately, but they expect it will take several days before operations return to normal. The Flight Attendants Union and the airline had on Tuesday reached a tentative deal, but its details have not been disclosed. The union said unpaid work has over. Flight attendants had walked off the job on Saturday after contract talks with the airline collapsed. They had pushed for compensation for duties such as boarding passengers. The airline is yet to reinstate its third quarter and full year profit outlook, which were withdrawn due to the strike. US President Donald Trump called on Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook to resign, intensifying his effort to gain influence over the central bank on the basis of allegations made by one of his allies about mortgages Cook's hold in Michigan and Georgia. U.S. Federal Housing Finance Agency Director alleged in a post on X earlier that Cook had designated a condo in Atlanta as her primary residence after taking a loan on her home in Michigan, which she also declared as a primary residence. Loans for a primary residence can carry easier terms than for second homes or investment properties. The loans date to mid-2021, before Cook was appointed to the FED by former President Joe Biden and confirmed by the Senate the following year. She is a native of Georgia and at time was an economic professor at Michigan State University. Trump quickly amplified the allegation and the Justice Department was taking the matter very seriously. Cook is one of the 3 Biden appointees to the FED whose terms extended beyond Trump's time in office, complicating the president's efforts to get more control by appointing a majority of its 7-member board. Coming up, Peruvian police seize 1.5 tons cocaine bound for Europe. The death toll from a bus crash in western Afghanistan has risen to 79 after 2 survivors died from their injuries. The incident occurred late on Tuesday in Herat Province's Guzara district when a passenger bus carrying Afghan returnees from Iran struck a motorcycle and fuel truck, triggering a huge fire. Abdul Matin Khani, spokesman for the interim Interior Ministry, on Wednesday said at least 19 children were among those killed. Muhammad Janan Makadas, chief physician of the military hospital, said many bodies were too badly burned to be identified. It was reported that cleanup crews were working on Wednesday to remove the burnt-out bus and the twisted wreckage of the other vehicles. The bus was transporting Afghans recently expelled from Iran to the capital. The Afghanistan central government has ordered an investigation into the incident. More than 1.5 million Afghans have returned from Iran and Pakistan this year alone, according to the United Nations Migration Agency, as both countries step up deportations after decades of hosting Afghan refugees. Many arrive with little means and face dire conditions in a country battling poverty and mass unemployment. 6 severed heads have been found on a road in central Mexico in an area not normally associated with cartel violence. Local authorities made the discovery on Tuesday on the route that links the broadly peaceful states of Puebla and Tlaxcala. Police had not given a motive for the killings or said which of the criminal groups operating in Mexico might have carried them out. Local media has reported that a blanket was left at the scene with a message issuing a warning to rival gangs and apparently signed by a group called La Barredora, meaning the sweeper. It is the same name as the little-known criminal groups operating in the western state of Guerrero, but it isn't clear if they were behind the attack or why. The local prosecutor's office said the heads are found in Tlaxcala, where those of men, and it has launched an investigation into the killings. As well as drug trafficking, there is an issue in the region with fuel smuggling, which generates billions of dollars a year for the groups behind the illegal activity. Mexican authorities announced on Wednesday the arrest of 13 people allegedly involved in the May killing of 2 high-ranking Mexico City officials, a brazen daytime attack that shocked the capital. The suspects were detained following months of investigation and close coordination between federal and city governments. Pablo Vázquez Camacho, Secretary of Citizen Security for Mexico City, said investigators are pursuing multiple motives, including the possibility that the victims were targeted because of their official roles.
También se hablaba de que habían tenido alguna experiencia previa.
Lo que hace al móvil, se tienen diversas hipótesis abiertas, se sigue investigando. Desde luego no descartamos hipótesis relativas a la función que desempeñaban nuestros compañeros, pero todas esas hipótesis están fundamentando conforme avanza la investigación. Nos vamos y les pedimos la comprensión a reservar en este momento la información que tengamos sobre las distintas hipótesis del móvil.
Evidence collected from several properties linked to the suspects to drug trafficking, vehicle theft, and the crimes of criminal association and homicide, Vázquez Camacho added. the attack carried out by gunmen on motorbikes has raised concerns about security in Mexico City, long considered safer than many other parts of the country. The Peruvian police put on display on Wednesday the cocaine seized during 4 operations in 3 regions, amounting to 1.5 metric tons. The anti-drug chief, Nilton Santos, explained the interventions were carried out in January, March, May and August in the regions of Puno, Ayacucho and Tacna in the center of the country.
Desarticulado 2 organizaciones criminales dedicadas al tráfico ilícito de drogas a nivel internacional. Hemos tenido 4 intervenciones previas en enero, en marzo, en mayo y en agosto. En las 4 intervenciones anteriores hemos logrado el decomiso en promedio de 400 kilos cada intervención, que hace un total de 1.550 kilos.
The operation ended on Saturday with 10 people arrested who belong to the criminal organizations Gambito and Centurion. According to a police statement, the gangs had been operating in Peru since the beginning of 2025, with most of their members have already been arrested. The cargo was bound for Europe via Uruguay or Paraguay. Hurricane Irene was nearing North Carolina's coast, threatening huge waves and flooding as the strengthening Category 2 storm triggered mandatory evacuation orders despite its offshore path. The U.S. state, still reeling from last year's deadly Hurricane Helene, declared an emergency Tuesday as Irene's impact were predicted to begin from Wednesday evening through Thursday. Based on the current forecast, Governor Joseph Stein said they are anticipating coastal flooding from massive waves, tropical storm force winds, and tidals and storm surge for much of the state shoreline, especially the Outer Banks. According to the National Hurricane Center, as of Wednesday afternoon, Irene was churning northward some 300 miles southeast of North Carolina, packing maximum sustained winds of 110 miles per hour, with the possibility it could still re-strengthen to a major hurricane. Mandatory evacuation orders were issued for Ocracoke and Hatteras Island. Part of the North Carolina is Virginia, where we're under a tropical storm warning. Next, Moraes scores as Selangor hold ASEAN champions Buriram. Selangor started their ASEAN Club Championship Group A campaign with a 1-1 draw against defending champions Buriram United at the Chang Arena last night. Brazilian striker Gregor Moraes gave Selangor a 38-minute lead against his former team before Peter Zilch scored a late equalizer for the ties in the 8th minute of the stoppage time. The Red Giants were expected to struggle against the Thai powerhouse. However, they managed to contain Buriram's attack, a result of Japanese coach Katsuhito Kinoshi's tactical plan. Moraes, 24, had a chance to score in the 25th minute, but his shot went wide. However, he made it count in the 38th minute, beating goalkeeper Chachai Boprom. Buriram almost found an equalizer in the 41st minute, but Tanakrit Chomwa Park's effort went wide and the first half ended with Selangor holding a 1-goal lead. In the second half, Buriram coach Osmar Los brought on Supanat Muenta for Tanakrit and Peter Zulch for Pitiwad Sukjitamako to take control of the game. The changes gave Buriram more attacking power, but Selangor goalkeeper Kalamullah Al-Hafiz denied them with several fine blocks. However, Zulch headed in the equalizer from a corner kick deep into the stoppage time to share the points. Al Ahly advanced to the Saudi Super Cup final with a 5-1 thrashing of Al Qatsiyah in Hong Kong on Wednesday. Al Ahly will contest the final against Cristiano Ronaldo Al Nassr, who overcame a numerical disadvantage following the dismissal of Sadio Mane to defeat Saudi Pro League champions Al Ittihad 2-1 in the other semi-final on Tuesday. The reigning Asian champion found themselves behind early on when Uruguayan defender Gaston Alvarez scored for Al Qatsiyah in the 8th minute. Al Ahly responded within 4 minutes, however, as former Barcelona and Milan midfielder Franck Kessie equalised from a long throw-in. Ivan Toney then added to his reputation as one of the world's best penalty takers when he started down Cohen Casteels from the spot and sent the Belgian goalkeeper the wrong way just before the half-hour mark. Enzo Millet, the Jeddah side's marquee summer signing, added another 3 minutes later before Al Qatsiyah were reduced to 10 men when Christopher Bonsuba was shown a straight red for a studs-up challenge in Roger Ibanez. Kessie scored his second from a short corner routine on the stroke of half-time, with ex-Real Madrid captain Nacho Fernandez then steering across into his own net in the 61st minute to wrap up a 5-1 rout. Defending champion Linda Noskova, the number 6 seed, defeated qualifier Lulu Sun in a 2-tight tie-break set, saving a set point in the second in the first round of the Abierto GNP Seguros in Monterrey, Mexico on Tuesday. But 8th-seeded Anastasia Pavel-Yuchenkova was upset by another qualifier, Antonia Ruzic, in straight sets. Noskova battled past the New Zealander 7-6, 7-6 after an hour and 42 minutes, and the Czech will meet Germany's Tajana Maria on Wednesday. The contest was a reprise of the previous year's final, and Noskova leveled her head-to-head with Sun at 2 wins apiece. Australia's Ella Tomljanovic took a wild cut to play in the WTA 250 in Monterrey and won her opening match against Mexican home hope Renata Zarazua 4-6, 6-3, 7-6 after a 3-hour marathon battle in which she saved 5 match points. Tomljanovic, who improved a 3-2 overall against Zarazua in their first meeting off clay, advances to meet the number 2 seed, Ekaterina Alexandrova from Russia, who received a first round bye. Alright, so that concludes today's edition of World Today. In our top story, Israel calls up 60,000 reservists ahead of the Gaza City offensive. Till then, I'm Shuhaida Arifin, Malaysia Madani, Rakyat Disantuni. Thank you for watching.